Hello Norwood. Today we're speaking with Registrar O'Donnell about the programs and services offered at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. Let's turn to the interview right now. Thank you, Registrar O'Donnell, for being here.
Well, sure, Kevin. Call me Bill. But thanks for having, and we'll talk a little bit about the Registry of Deeds, I guess.
So I would like to start with the general function of the Registry of Deeds. I was hoping maybe you can just outline what the Registry of Deeds does.
Sure. As the Registry of Deeds, I'm in charge of what happens at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. It's been in existence here in Norfolk County since 1793. Norwood was established in 1872 and is one of the 28 communities that make up Norfolk County. And again, a great question, because a lot of times it's an arm of government people may not realize, but when you think about it, the biggest asset most of us have is our homes. And what the registry deals with is land records. There are legal land documents that get recorded that give title to someone's home. And that's basically what we have to do. We have to make sure the documents are legal. We may have to make sure they get recorded properly. And in this era of cybersecurity, we have to make sure the records are protected. What records get recorded? I mean, here in Norwood, people own houses. When they buy a house, a deed gets recorded. We all have to borrow money. Mortgages get recorded. The Norwood people might need to get a variance for a porch or a garage here in Norwood, and they have to take it down to the registry once it's approved to get a variance recorded. Or the subdivisions that the Norwood Planning Board approves, they all get recorded at the registry. So really, it's been in existence since 1793, but it really has a legal function. Is to make sure we have to make sure the documents are recorded accurately and legally. And based on that, there's a lot of responsibility, because the lawyers that do title searches are looking up the documents. It affects a lot of industry, whether it's the banks, when they're lending money, or developers or contractors that are building houses. So, we try to make sure what gets done at the registry gets done well, and because people depend on it. And as I said, your house is your biggest asset, and people depend on that.
Absolutely. And a big part of that would probably be a big part of your role might be around modernization of files.
As I said, there's been a lot that's taken place since 1793. But when I first became registrar, I think I tried to combine some of the things I learned in my, here in Norwood. I used to work as an assistant district attorney for then District Attorney Bill Delahunt, so I've been in government. Back when I was in college, I spent 3 years working for Congressman Joe Moakley. So you see some things government does well. I was a town meeting member here in Norwood, and so you know what government does well, but you also see some things that government might not do so well. And I was also in the private sector, after the district attorney's office, working in the private sector where you have bills to pay. And so I've tried to run it like a business, but also draw on some of the experiences I've had in government. And one of the things that I saw was needed when I became registered was modernization. And it kind of timed out, because I've been registered since 2002, but the internet was just kind of getting going. As a matter of fact, when I started at the registry, we didn't have internet land record research. They didn't even have a website. And so we created a website, and people that are watching your show, Kevin, can go on www.norfolkdeeds.org, because yes, the attorneys and the engineers and brokers go on it to look at the documents, but we also have, we make it information-based. We have information on the homestead. We have information if someone dies, some of the things to look for. We have information on your, what to do if you need to get a discharge, which is a document that tells the world that your mortgage has been paid off. So I guess I'm very proud, and I always say maybe, coaching sports and being involved in sports, there's no I in team. The modernization that took place at the registry since I've been registered is because we got a great team of employees. I mentioned internet land record research. you can go back to document number 1, book 1, page 1 from 1793, and that's online. You can research indexes. So if you wanted to look up, and I always say there's 4 presidents born in Norfolk County, but if you wanted to run one of the presidents, John Adams, you could run it in the index. So all that information has been put online. We have over 14 million images online, and people can go, and that was one of the best modernization efforts, is to go and look up this information. And because we put everything online, and because we were one of the first registries to do electronic recording, which means traditionally a lawyer, back in the day, as my kids would say, would do the closing at their office or maybe down at the registry, take all the documents down and record it. But the federal law and the state law had been changed. The federal government and the state government tried to modernize the registry, and we worked with them so that now an attorney here in Norwood or an attorney out in Bellingham or an attorney in Quincy can do the closing and then send the documents online so the documents get recorded. So, and you might say, well, what does all this modernization mean? Well, we just try to make the registry relevant. We still do a lot of things the old-fashioned way. There's 21 registries here in Massachusetts, and we're one of the few registries that still print books. And some people still use the books, and we're approaching book 42,000. When I started, it was book 17,000. So it's been a very busy place, the registry, as far as documents being recorded. But we've tried to modernize it. And when I mentioned we've modernized it and things are online, you can look up, as I said, on our website to get information, or you can look up the documents yourself. But anyone that, I grew up here in Norwood, anyone that knew my dad, he climbed poles for the Boston Edison, and he said, when we were talking about modernizing and what we're doing at work, he said, remember, you're modernizing something, but some of us don't care to know anything about computers. So we have a customer service number, 781-461-6101. So we have a customer service center where someone answers the phone, and hopefully if you have any questions about do you have a homestead, or is my mortgage, has it been paid off, has the discharge gotten to the registry, we do have resources there and staff to try to help people. And that goes back to my days with Joe Moakley, who was a congressman here representing Norwood a long time ago, and emphasized, taking care of your constituents and the people and try to help them out.
Absolutely. And also, I've used the Registry of Deeds website. I've done a lot of research on it recently, and I looked for past land records and stuff. And once when you get a hang of it, you can really find some very interesting information, especially on the history of Norwood.
Yes, and we do, again, on our website, there's an instructional page. And you're right, people go to law school, or title examiners have been around for the years to get the nuances of doing, title research. But, people, I call it the poor person's title search. You can, most deeds have a book and page, and you can kind of hop back and go and look up the information. I mentioned I'm very proud of what the team did to get all this information online and again, modernizing the registry. But one of the other projects I was very proud of, we were one of the first registries in New England, and some people say the country. We transcribed all the handwritten documents. So from book 1, which was 1793, to 1900, all the documents were handwritten.
That's a huge help.
Yes, I always say the register, who was Register Burdekin, there was only 11 registers, but he probably went in 1900 and talked about his modernization effort, which was the typewriter. And that's, you can see it in the books and page. In 1900, they started typing out the documents. But from 1793 to 1900, there were over 450,000 documents, of which, and when I say documents, deeds, mortgages, and we transcribed them into easy-to-read text. Now, I did it because I love history, and there's a lot of history in Norfolk County. We mentioned 4 presidents. If you want to do the research on towns, I remembered, and again, we had the 150th anniversary of the town of Norwood. This book that we did to celebrate has the deeds. And some of these deeds, here is, I open to the page, Tyler Thayer. He was a house right, but he was also a selectman, and some credit him lobbying for the town to be called Norwood. But we have the deeds to some of these people from back in 1872. But the beauty is, it's hard to read. And I always said we called it the History Comes Alive project, because history can't come alive if it's very hard to read, and it was very hard to read the handwritten documents. But if you go to book 1, page 1, if you're out there in the audience and you hit a button, the legal document, which is the handwritten document, comes up, but you can hit another button and the transcribed version of the document comes up, and it becomes easier to read. As a matter of fact, David McCulloch, who's done research, he passed away not that long ago, but he actually wrote a letter to us because of the transcription project, saying that he was glad it was done. It was a credit to do it, because he wished more registries had it, because when he was looking through the documents, it's a lot harder to read those handwritten documents. But when you hit another button and that typed version comes out, it's easier for history.
Right.
And also, hey, I have young children. I had one son that went to Xaverian, and a daughter and a son that went to Norwood. But hey, some of their contemporaries, I went to St. Catherine's in Norwood. You learned how to read penmanship. A lot of young people they just know printing. They don't really know the cursive. So who knows? Maybe down the line, this would be a way for people to read documents.
You also mentioned you're still printing books. Is that correct?
Yes, we still print books, and I want people to feel comforted that we're trying to protect the records. So as part of the modernization process, we still microfilm, which by law we have to. And some people, there's struggles there because there's less and less available microfilm to get. But by law, we have to microfilm the documents. So that's one way the records are protected. But also we do daily tape drive backups, and they get transported. Iron Mountain has a couple of places. One is a renovated nuclear bunker down in Rhode Island. So all the information gets shipped off site. So if anything happens to that building, and again, as part of the modernization effort, we developed, and it's changed over the years, a disaster recovery plan, a business continuity plan. But you have to protect the records, and so we protect them by having them in the computer and the tape drive backups that happen daily. We protect the records from with the microfilm by putting them on microfilm, and again storing those off site. And again, people might say, well, what's the big deal about microfilm? Well, think about what happened. Not that long ago, there were floods in New Orleans that wiped out registries. And how are you going to recreate the records? Well, you better have a business continuity plan where your records aren't stored at the registry building where something could happen. Because people forget, I tell people, hey, there was actually a fire at the Norfolk Registry, and the Dedham Fire Department did a great job, February 6, 2021. Well, disasters can happen, and that would be a disaster. And people don't realize the Charles River and the water is the next 2 lots down. So, anything can happen. But I personally, I love history, and a lot of the registries in Massachusetts don't print books, but I still feel it's a form of a way to back up the documents, that we have them all in books, and people can come by and do it the old-fashioned way, especially, again, as part of our modernization initiatives. We were the first registry to put a generator in. So when the electricity cut, and it was cutting out a lot. Sometimes the electricity isn't as good in Dedham as it is here in Norwood. But we were on a line that went to the Dedham Center, which wasn't a good line, but we put a generator in, and we haven't lost the electricity. So yes, the computers can stay up and running. But you know what? We print indexes, we print books. If the electricity ever went out, and some people still do it the old-fashioned way, you can come into the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. And again, I should point out, we're at 649 High Street across from the Gold Dome Superior Court. It's a public building. You can come in, and a lot of people do come in and do research the old-fashioned way and just go through the books.
Sure. And there's a customer service center within the building?
Yes. And again, the building, it's a busy building. People that report for jury duty, or there's the grand jury there, there's the law library. So people utilize the building, and people have walked into our customer service center, which is on the first floor of the registry, and it's a set-aside office where people can just show up and ask for help. Can I get a copy of my deed? Do I have a homestead? Has my mortgage been paid off? If it's been paid off, has the discharge shown? So so they can come there, and they can also, as I said, call that number 781-461-6101. And if anyone else has questions, they can always email me directly at registerodonnell, ODONNELL, @norfolkdeeds.org.
Yeah, and I'll put that on the screen too, so people can see that. One of the most interesting parts of the location itself is the Genealogy Resource Center. I was hoping you could explain I use it myself, but for the people who are watching, what that is.
Well, it's been reported that one of the fastest growing hobbies is ancestry research, genealogical research. Now, we put all these records online and modernize the registry because, listen, we're part of a business community, the buying and selling of houses, the lending of money. But because I liked history, I also recognized the value of history in these documents. And more people are doing, I know ABC News did the survey, that more and more people are, as I said, that's one of the biggest hobbies in America, ancestry and genealogical research. So in 2024, we started a genealogical and research center. And more and more people are looking through the documents for genealogy reasons, or just for history in general. And and what some people have heard of Ancestry.com. I personally have signed up and started with two grandparents that came from Ireland, didn't have much research, and it's amazing. But what we did is you can get free access to Ancestry.com if you come down, again, to get started. You may, as you end up on that journey and probably get addicted like a lot of people do, you'll end up getting your own account so you can do things and build your family tree and take a look at it. But we have information about the different genealogical magazines, and you can come to the registry, and there's a bank of computers there that it's just dedicated to Ancestry.com and learning of research, and we have links to groups that will help you research. So we've tried to tie in everything, the printing, the transcribing of the documents has made this information relevant, because some of those deeds from 1793 actually list everything that was in the house that got sold, and it gives a kind of a window into what was going on in the 1790s or early 1800s in around Norfolk County, and people are interested either for historical reasons or their own family reasons. So again, if you physically come to 649 High Street, the Genealogical Bank of Computers is, you take a left and you head to what they call the land court section, and you'll see the computers and the research that we have, books and things that people can look at.
Yeah, and there's absolutely an abundance of resources there. It's fantastic. I want to steer towards your testimony on Beacon Hill. On Bill HB 3971. Maybe you could provide an overview of what that was about.
Well, that bill is, and over the years, we've done bills up at the State House. Actually, one of the reasons we had electronic recording in the land court, we had to change the statute. To get electronic recording on the recorded side, there are two sides of land at the registry. There's land court land, which is about 20% of Norfolk County, and recorded land. So we've had to go to the legislature and get changes to the law, and they were nice enough to change the law in 2017, which allowed us to do electronic recording in the land court side. We have always been doing it since 2010 on the recorded side. So, we view the legislature, you have to go up and petition. This particular bill, there's no secret, there's been some controversies, and I think people should, rethink county government. But I've had to institute lawsuits, and the county commissioners zeroed out my legal funds. So I had a lawyer, and the lawyer wasn't getting paid. I had no more lawyer. But you know what? I used to do this for a living. So I litigated a case against them, and they were found, and the county director, John Cronin, was found to unlawfully interfere with the registry. It went all the way up to, we won in the Superior Court. We won twice favorable rulings in the appeals court. We went up in front of the single justice, and I'm doing this all against a big Boston law firm.
Yeah.
And then the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, highest state court, they ruled in favor. I had to do another lawsuit. We just got two favorable rulings and a final judgment in the Superior Court. And I don't like filing lawsuits, but they're breaking the law. And one of the lawsuits deals with the monies. They're taking public monies. They're misappropriating monies. So what is this bill about? And I'm not the only one. The Register in Plymouth has had the same problems with the Plymouth County Commissioners. And again, county government was abolished in 8 out of the 14 Massachusetts counties. There's only 2 that are left, that are islands. And maybe there should be county government there. Martha's Vineyard, Dukes County, or Nantucket. But you know what? The study, that bill is just a study. Should the county registries go with the other registries? I mentioned there are 21 registries. 13 of them are state registries. And so there's an interest, like, look at, the commissioners are breaking the law. They're not recognizing the services that we do. And as far as I'm concerned, if county government gets abolished, the state legislature has put statutes in to fund the registry. That bill is just a study.
Yeah.
And the reason the county commissioners are opposed to the study, they don't want everyone to see the bad decisions they're making. And, and maybe a town like Norwood, I know they're struggling with their budget priorities. Mm-hmm. The county commissioners get $7.5 million from the cities and towns of Norfolk County. They get $4.5 million in deeds excise. They get $2.5 million from transaction fees or recording fees. That's almost $15 million. Maybe the cities and towns, like a town like Norwood, that's struggling with some financial and budgetary priorities, maybe they should look at getting rid of county government and getting the money back into the cities and towns.
That's a fascinating concept.
Yeah, well, the bill is just a study.
Yeah.
But when people are so opposed to a study, what are they afraid of? But anyway, the Norfolk Registry of Deeds, and it's not me saying it, these are lawyers. It's been known as the gold standard of the Massachusetts registries. We've always provided good services. But I'll tell you, with the way we've been treated, it's been a challenge. And again, people say treated, but when courts of law are saying laws are being violated, then there's something wrong. So that's what that bill's about. I recognize that it's going to be I don't see what the problem is just studying the issue, but
yeah,
we'll see.
I could see how some people would be against the idea of change. They like the way things are. But I guess I'm trying to understand, would this study, it'd be analyzing the feasibility of county registry of deeds to move to the state under the jurisdiction of the state.
Right. And I'm sure the county doesn't want that because they derive a lot of revenue. Most of the revenues that get collected at the registry go to the state, but some of them go to the county. But as far as I'm concerned, out this way you have the Norfolk County Aggie School. When Essex County got abolished, the Aggie School in Essex flourished. So that's probably the only one. I mean,
yeah.
They run a golf course in Quincy. I don't know if many people out this way go play golf in Quincy. But, what they're afraid of, it's not just studying, why the county registry should go. They're afraid that people are going to look at, should we be rethinking or abolishing county government? What purpose does it serve?
Yeah, so not even Massachusetts. New England county governments offer kind of a distinct role from the South. In the South, county governments, it's way more prevalent than local.
They run the police departments. Yeah. No, I recognize that. So it'll be
But up here,
up
in Massachusetts, I mean, I feel like most people, they don't really understand what county governments do. I do think that there should be some consideration with that. But I guess the question I would have is, if there is change towards the deeds going towards the states, would that have a ripple effect towards other county services? as you mentioned, some people may look at that and say, well, if it's better effectively run by the state, why do we have these other services run by counties as well?
Right, and again, yes, I had lawsuits against the county commissioners, but please understand, they also sued the town of Walpole. There's an issue. They were going to clear cut, 25 acres to put solar panels that were opposed by the union at the Aggie school, the students at the Aggie school, and some of the neighbors. So there's been other lawsuits that these county commissioners involved in besides the lawsuits that I'm involved in. But that's how it is. One good thing about statutes, though, being changed, and to, again, make it relevant to people out there, there's a law called the Homestead Law, which the homestead protects your home. If you have a principal residence, you can declare a homestead. And you can thank your local legislators because before you had to record a document. Now, if you don't record a document, for the first time in Massachusetts history, there's an automatic homestead. But again, it's only $125,000 and it gets apportioned. But in 2024, there was a change. Again, laws change. And they gave a $1 million protection. So when I first started as registrar, it was a $300,000 protection. It went up to $500,000, and now in 2024, it went up to $1 million. So if you own property, whether it might be a two-family and you live on the first floor, or a condominium here in Norwood, or a house, you want to make sure. I'm an attorney by training. You talk to 10 different attorneys, people say, oh, there's 10 different opinions on things. 9.9 attorneys out of 10 would say you should have a homestead recorded. It's a relatively minor filing fee. The state legislature sets the filing fees. That has stayed relatively cheap, $35. And if you go to our website, we have information on the homestead, and we have homestead forms that you can download. But what does the homestead do? Well, if you record a homestead, look, if you don't pay your mortgage, you can be foreclosed on. If you don't pay the town of Norwood the taxes they're owed, they can take your house by tax title. But people might be driving a car and get into a bad car accident and be at fault, and there's an injured party. Or they might have credit card debt or some other debts that come up. If you have a homestead, I try to tell people it sort of puts a picket fence around the house. They're still going to chase you for those debts, but they cannot force the sale of your home to satisfy those debts. So, that was a good change in the statute. They're increasing the protections. And if you do a recorded homestead, to get $1 million worth of protection, why not? And if you have recorded a homestead, and you could call our customer service to double check it or go online and see if you can pull up your homestead. But if you have a valid homestead, the state legislature has written a law that you get the benefit. You don't have to go out and redo another homestead and go to, record it at the registry. You get the benefit of that protection, Kevin. So it's a good consumer protection statute. And if you record your homestead, it not only protects your home against a forced sale, but there's other hidden protections that if your house burnt down and you got a check from the insurance company to rebuild, creditors can't come in and swoop in and go after that money if you have a recorded homestead for a limited period of time, in that case 2 years. Or if you sold your house, creditors can't come in and swoop in and get the proceeds, again, for a limited period of time of 1 year because you have a homestead. So the main thing is, again, back to what we said, and try to hopefully make what we're talking about relevant, that your house is your biggest asset. So take steps to protect it, and one way to protect it is the homestead. It's Chapter 188. It's a state law. It's been around a while. I think shows like yours, and people are more attuned with social media and looking up things on the internet. But, just going out and making sure you have a homestead. Again, in Massachusetts, it's on your principal residence. It has to be your principal residence.
And I just want to clarify, the change that happened in August 2024, that was increasing it to $1 million?
Yes, it was $500,000, and it got increased to $1 million. And that's a good thing, because I've seen it go up, as I said, I mentioned, from $300,000 to $500,000. I think it's just important to get the homestead recorded because, you know, the effect of that is, you know, courts, you know, most judges show common sense aren't going to split the house in half. You have a homestead and you have some value to your house, but I think they put it up to $1 million because they could see like home prices and
Yeah.
values of houses are going up. So they recognize they have to protect it. But the good news is just get this document recorded because, you know, I haven't seen judges recognize, okay, there's a homestead on, we're not going to force the sale of that home.
And that wouldn't protect from mortgages, would it?
No, and,
Yeah.
and again, on our website there is information. I mean, every community, and there are 28 communities in Massachusetts. Some of the communities, you know, the Needhams and the Dovers and the Brooklines, there's been foreclosures in every community. So you go to our website, if you find yourself struggling with a foreclosure, and a homestead doesn't protect a foreclosure. You know, the banks, it was written in state law, you know, everyone's playing poker, you know. The homestead doesn't beat the bank, you know, or the town. But we do have information on our website. We've partnered up with a couple of nonprofit groups, Neighbor Works Housing Solutions and Quincy Community Action programs. And just because it says Quincy, they've committed to help people out this way. So they've helped people all around the county. And what I like about those two groups, they're nonprofit. And they help people who are facing foreclosure. And I always tell people, don't wait till the sheriff is selling your house in foreclosure. Reach out to these groups. Go to our website, and actually the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, we have those resources available and on our website. They have resources available to people that are struggling with foreclosure. What I like about those two nonprofit groups, they give people counseling. And also they provide legal services because remember, a foreclosure is a legal process. The only involvement the registry has in a foreclosure is by law, when a bank or a lender forecloses, they have to file a lawsuit. When they file a lawsuit, they have to record the notice of that lawsuit at the registry. And that's why, you know, in 2007, there was, you know, we saw a lot of, there was a downturn in the economy, a lot of foreclosures, and that's when we, again, trying to make the registry relevant to what's going on in society, we reached out to these nonprofit groups where, you know, they get the information and try to, you know, help the people. But you really should take it upon yourself as a consumer if you're struggling with foreclosure debts. And it could, we're all one bad decision away from that, or a bad health situation. Sure. Get counseling. Get the advice of these nonprofit groups. Again, Quincy Community Action Programs and Neighbor Works Housing Solutions, and you know, get going on that so that you know, you get the advice and counsel that you have. And because a lot of times people wait till the auction's going on, and don't wait till it's later in the process. Get on it right away.
Right, and you want to. Yeah, you want to make sure it's a good thing to do beforehand. You don't want to get to that point, but it's a good safeguard.
And they know that they've seen it. So don't, you know, again, sometimes people are embarrassed. Sometimes people think, oh, it's going to go away. You know, yeah. If someone's, you know, if they filed a case, you know, a court action, you know, it's not going away. But sometimes people think it is. Yeah. Get the counseling, you know, get some advice. And the good thing is, they don't just counsel on the problem. They also look at, hey, if it's credit card debt, they try to counsel and help people, educate them as to, you know, maybe you got to change your lifestyle with the credit cards and this and that. So they don't just give advice on the legal part of it. They also try to look at it from, you know, a global position, you know, purpose, and try to solve the problem. But, you know, a short answer, that was a long answer to your question, but the homestead does not beat a foreclosure, but reach out to those groups and they will help you if you're struggling with foreclosure.
No, it's something that a lot of people don't know about that is important and is useful. And another thing I want to touch on would be change of ownership. Because obviously sometimes, you know, maybe a spouse dies and you need to handle that process. I was wondering if you could outline how people can do that.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, and again, there are certain things, when my mother passed away, she passed away from cancer, I told my dad, hey, you got to record a couple of things. The property goes automatically. They owned it jointly as husband and wife, so it went automatically to him. You don't have to do anything. And that's pretty much it. You may have to record a death certificate to show what happened to the other person. You may have to record a document that says there were no estate taxes. Some people come and they don't want to, they're a little nervous about going to probate court or writing things out in the will. They may want to add children to the deed, but there's a lot of legal issues to that. So I always tell people, the plumbers in Norwood know, if I have plumbing problems in Norwood, I don't want to be doing work myself on my house. I'm going to mess it up. But if you have some legal issues like that, you may want to reach out to the Norfolk County Bar Association or local attorneys, and because the recording of the deed is the simple thing. It's a relatively simple document, but it has so many consequences. So people should really seek counsel as far as to make sure this is exactly what they want.
I always thought it was more complicated than it really is. So it's really
again, when the last person standing dies, if they don't have the property in trust, it goes according to the will. You have to file wills at the probate court, and you can have Colleen Brierly, the Registrar of Probate here in Norwood, go over that. But I always tell people the process in the document might only be 1 or 2 pages, but it has such ramifications legally that sometimes people come in and they have it listed as tenants in common, which means it's 50-50, but they really want it jointly, meaning if someone dies, 100% of it goes this way. So that's why you got to reach out. I guess it's the biggest asset you have, and if you really should reach out and get some legal counsel. And more people are reaching out on estate planning and things like that as well, and they should do it.
Now, one thing that's popping up a lot recently is identity theft, fraud. I was hoping maybe you could outline kind of your work on that, on handling those issues.
Yes, and actually, the FBI says the fastest growing white-collar crime is property fraud, deed fraud.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it in Norfolk County, but that doesn't mean we weren't watching things. It was happening in California. It was happening in Philadelphia. It happened in Illinois. So, and actually in 2015, a lot of the ads you see on TV and all that, we were doing that back in 2015. We have a consumer notification service at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds for Norfolk property. I've signed up myself. So if you go online at our website, there's a drop down under services. It's called the Consumer Notification Service. What does it do? Well, I'll just kind of outline what it did for me. Because I signed up, anytime a William O'Donnell document gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds, I get an email with the book and page. Now, there are times I get a notice, it's William J. O'Donnell, I'm William Patrick O'Donnell, or it's William Patrick O'Donnell, but it's from Quincy, it has nothing to do with me. That's good. But I want to make sure people understand, we're not preventing the fraud, because there could be a time my wife or I get this notice and we look and we're like, wait a minute, we didn't sign that deed. Or that's an equity line. We didn't sign that mortgage or that equity line. Something's going on. Now, we didn't prevent the fraud, but we have links on our website to the law enforcement authorities. You can get in touch. You probably have to get in touch with an attorney, much like people who have had credit cards compromised. You have some work to do. So we did this in 2015. Having no idea. I mean, maybe some of it was I worked in the district attorney's office. You see the bad things people do, but having no idea what level of cybersecurity risk and scams that are taking place now. But I would urge people to take a look at our consumer notification service. It's a free service. Now people call up, they're signing up for these services, and I can understand why. You get a commercial that has ex-FBI agents saying, hey, this is going on, or the criminals that are on those commercials. People want a comfort level that their home is being protected, that they're getting notified. And I notice some of these groups are now saying they will provide insurance to it. Well, that's something to explore. We don't provide insurance. We provide notification. You know, my parents, you know, my mom was from Rosendale, my dad from Brighton. I know everyone thinks we're Norwood O'Donnells. My dad used to correct them and say, no, I'm not the Norwood O'Donnell. But when he bought in 1960, he didn't have to check his title or be worried about any of this, but that's the reality we live in now in this era. So we have a consumer notification service that you can sign up for. I do try to give people some comfort level. There's a state law in Massachusetts that says a fraudulent deed does not convey good title. So if someone pulls a scam and they somehow hijack the deed, if there's an innocent purchaser in all this, they may be out money. But the person whose property got hijacked, there's a statute that says a fraudulent deed does not convey good title. Doesn't mean you're not going to have some issues in trying to hopefully prosecute whoever did it and also try to take steps to, you know, get things straightened out legally. But I just want to give people that comfort level that, again, thank you, local legislators, for having a statute like that. So I don't want to throw fear out to people. I think in this day and age, we have to take steps to protect our assets, and our house is our biggest asset. But I also want them to understand there is a law in place that says a fraudulent deed does not convey good title, which is a good thing.
And yeah, both of those aspects. If you're mentioning the notification, it's super helpful just for people to be notified that something could be wrong. But also, the state law is on your side, and I think, yes, there is personal work that you have to do in order to resolve the issue. And the issue it's probably not going to come up anyway, but
and we have some
super helpful.
Yeah, we have some people. You know, I can look up on the computer when I get that notice and check the book and page of the document. But even some of the people that have signed up said, "Hey, I'm not great on the computer." They call our customer service center and say, "Hey, I got this notice," you know, and kind of, you know, people try to, you know, at the customer service center try to walk them through, like, "Oh, geez, it's a different middle initial. It's not you," or things like that. And the good news is I haven't seen it yet, but Norfolk County isn't immune to what's going on, and I know it's happened in other places in Massachusetts where there have been these type of frauds going on.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, something kind of revealed itself. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. So can you explain the difference between deeds and land court? Because I recognize there's deed books, then there's the other side where there's land court records.
Right. Great question. The deeds all look the same. It's the same, you know, whoever's selling the house is selling it to the purchaser. 80% of the land in Massachusetts is on the recorded land side. And those are the records that go back to 1793. And as I mentioned, we're approaching, you know, I think, you know, 43,000. But the land court was established in Norfolk County. There was a statute that started in 1899, and in 1900 they started in Norfolk County. And someone took the time to go to the land court in Boston to get, you know, a certificate of title. I call it sort of the blessing of the land. And it was an expensive process. There were attorneys involved. There were engineers involved. Then the land court attorneys and the land court engineers were involved. And they go by certificate of title. So physically, if you come to the registry, the recorded land side is straight ahead, and all those books to straight ahead and to the right are the recorded land side. The land court side is to the left, and you know, it's just sort of a function of history. If someone took the time to get your property certified by the land court, it's done by certificate of title. There are some extra protections in that you can't adversely possess, you know, land court land or registered land. But for most consumers, they wouldn't even know. The deed looks the same. The attorneys that are doing the closing know, hey, I have to go to the land court side if it's land court, or the recorded land side if it's recorded land. So it's sort of something the attorneys know. The consumers don't. All they care about is that their deed gets recorded. And it either gets recorded on the land court side, which is 20% of Norfolk County's land, or on the 80% side, which is the recorded land side. But a great question. And we borrow money. So whether you're on the land court side or on the recorded land side, we borrow money. But when you pay off your loans, make sure the discharges that tell the world that that mortgage has been paid off gets recorded. Now, we have great local bank, Norwood Bank, now one local bank, If you need a discharge, you go to them, or you go to the Walpole Cooperative Bank if you borrow there. The community banks are great. They give great customer service. They look up, oh yeah, your discharge, geez, your mortgage was paid off, here's the discharge. But some of the bigger banks, they don't give great customer service. And because we have a lot of people, we've been to Norwood at office hours. We've been to the Council on Aging. We do it all around the 28 communities in Norfolk County. And I've had people come in and say, look, I'm selling my house. I paid this mortgage off 20 years ago. They say I need a discharge. What is it? A discharge is a 1 or 2 page document that gets recorded that tells the world that mortgage, when you borrowed money, is paid off. But sometimes banks merged. Sometimes, when I was a young person, I put money in the Norwood Cooperative Bank, but I put money in the Union Warren Bank, my paper route money. Union Warren, I think, is Citizens Bank, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it. But we have, on our website, if you go to www.norfolkdeeds.org, we have a document that says, where has my bank gone? It provides information, federal information, state information, what happened to all these banks. What names are they? Because just because the Union Warren is merged, and I think it's Citizens, don't quote me on it, Citizens owes you a discharge. If you need to get a discharge from Union Warren Bank, you go to Citizens. Now the trouble is, some of these bigger banks provided bad customer service. They're doing better customer service because A, they should, but also there was a lawsuit.
Yeah.
A lawsuit, and the state legislators, again, thank them, they put some teeth into the fact that if discharges aren't received by the consumer, there's some liability on the banks. So you want to get that 1 or 2 page document that tells the world if you paid off a loan, and sometimes we refinanced, well, that old loan it got paid off, even though I still have another mortgage. That old loan got paid off. Make sure the discharges are recorded. You can go to our website and check and look up yourself. You can call our customer service to see, hey, you know what, I paid this thing off. And your equity lines, those are mortgages. Those are liens against your property. So if you have an equity line that has been closed out, you have to make sure that the discharge is recorded at the registry that tells the world that equity line has been closed out. So, this, again, we want to make this program relevant to people. If you own property, there's so many things that you can do. You could record a homestead to protect your property. But we all need to borrow money. I mean, I have 3 children, luckily they're all out of college, but you need to borrow money for many reasons. And everyone has. You need to borrow money to buy a house. Well, if you've paid off that mortgage or you refinanced and paid off the old mortgage, make sure there's a mortgage discharge. And there are ways to get it. And if you're struggling with foreclosure, go to our website, reach out to those groups. Again, we deal with all kinds of old documents back to 1793, but we've modernized the registry, but we're also trying to be relevant to what's going on in society today.
And so there's another program, it's called the History Comes Alive transcription program. Could you maybe explain what that is?
Sure. The History Comes Alive project started with that transcription project, and it was just to make the documents come alive. I mean, we have, not too many registries have, records for 4 presidents born here. But how about this? A deed from John Quincy Adams, from John Adams, the 2nd president of the United States, to John Quincy Adams, the 6th president of the United States. So we transcribed all that.
Oh, I see.
And so that was the History Comes Alive project. But out of that, yes, there was the Norwood book. But out of that book, and again, the country is going on its 250th anniversary, but in 2018, it was the 225th anniversary of Norfolk County. We did a book. So a lot of those documents that we transcribed came alive, and we put the deeds out, and there are stories about people that were here in Norwood. And then when we renovated the registry, the History Comes Alive, we renovated the registry. We had a big ceremony in 2019. The registry moved for 3 years. It was in the first register, Captain Elephant Pond's dad's house, because they were having the courthouse built. And then that courthouse in 1827 was no longer good. They went over to the Norfolk Superior Court, which still exists today. And in 1903, It went to the registry building that you see today, and we renovated it. Well, history comes alive. We did a book, and we have stories about people from Norwood, but from all the communities. One of the books I'm very proud about, and again, Ted Melvihill was there leading the Pledge of Allegiance. We had Secretary Santiago. In fact, I know Norwood NCM just put it out again. It was in 2023. We did a story where we remember our veterans. Which, again, history comes alive. We have a story about veterans from all around the county. We have stories about the branches. We thank the veterans for our services. They allow us to have shows like this. But just recently, I know Ollie Abdallah was in the book. She was the first woman selectman. We did a book about, Abigail Adams was the first lady, married to John Adams, and she wrote when they were debating the Declaration of Independence, "I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors." So we did a book commemorating women and women's rights, and again, all these books, you can look at them online, or you just email me if you want copies. I know they've been sent out to the historical commissions and societies. Email me at registerodonnell@norfolkdeeds.org, and we'll get the book. And I always, because we had done these books, the 4 books, when Norwood had their 150th, we did one for Norwood. And yes, it has historical figures, but I just saw Richie Hebner at Cros, and he's in the book. And, every time I have a few extra ones, I give it to him. And, stories about Sales Wall, who was a reporter here, a legendary Frank Wall reporter. But, Governor Allen, not to steal Jerry Kelleher's thunder, but, we have a story in his deed. So there's a lot of interesting stories. And, Henry Diggs, who I remembered when I was a young town meeting member, or Ann Lyden when I was on the planning board, Colonel George Lee, who was the youngest colonel, and a renowned fighter pilot. So there's a lot of history. So the history comes alive. Yes, it's about legal documents because it affects the real estate title. But it's come alive with the transcription project, so we could do things like this. And then if you go on our website, we've done clips. And there's a clip from a Quincy Cable. They said they got more views on Lee Leach was nice enough. We did one on the bells and the stories. They have more clips. They have more hits on their YouTube about that story than Channel 5 did when Chronicle did a similar one. So, and it won an award, and they did one on the Norwood Theater, and they've done one on the Franklin Library. General Thayer, he's the father of West Point in Braintree, so there's stories on that. So we've also done some of these little longer taped versions, but short taped versions, and they've gotten some awards at these cable things. And congratulations to Norwood. NCM just recently got an award, and I think it's great. The community cable that we have in Norfolk County is fantastic, and it's in Norwood is the best, or one of the best.
State of the art.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yep.
They've come a long way, and it's a credit to Jack Tolman and the staff, and and the studio here is unbelievable.
Yeah, and I do want to thank Brian and the studio, as well as Jack Tolman. They help out with my programs a lot. I do want to throw a quick shout out to them. Also, I want to close out with this last question about the community activities the Registry of Deeds is a part of. Maybe you can mention how people could help the Registry of Deeds, if there's anything.
Sure. Again, maybe growing up in Norwood's that type of town. You're always there's always programs that try to help out different causes, and so we have we do from Thanksgiving into the holidays. Here we are. We collect food, and sometimes what's good, the jurors are there, and but again, go to our website. Norwood's the food pantry is great. But we have a list of the food pantries, and some of the food communities have multiple food pantries, so they need donations all year. You can go directly to them. The Marines just came yesterday. We've partnered up, and we've done it now 19 years. The Toys for Tots, again, we thank the Marines for their service and all veterans, but they have a Toys for Tots drive that we've done, and we've done, as I said, 19 years, and they just came by, and that's a great thing. You know, we've collected clothes and that have gone to the various, you know, there's inner city weightlifting has come by. There's a Circle of Hope, different from Norwood's in Needham, where these clothes have been dropped off, and also you know, down in Plainville, Father Bill's Mainspring place. We've gone you know, into town, you know, and donated them. So you know, we just try to do some things like that. You know, and we started that years ago, collecting women's clothes, pocketbooks, men's clothes. Not everyone's wearing suits like this anymore, but you know, sometimes you know, we'd go to the veterans. You know, we'd go to Jamaica Plain or West Roxbury or Brockton, and the veterans would say, "Hey, this is the only suit I have." You know, and sometimes they needed it for job interviews, but sometimes they said, "Hey, I'm going to a wedding or a funeral. This is great." So, you know, we try to do some community connected programming, you know, for that. And you know, again, any groups we've gone out to speak to the councils on aging or to the various Rotaries, Alliance clubs, and you know, bring our computers, print some documents, talk a little bit about what we talked about today, the different ways people can kind of, you know, make you know, protect their homes, and just some of the things that are available at the Registry of Deeds. And appreciate, you know, your show, Kevin, just highlighting that.
Yeah, and I hope this information was helpful for the people that are watching. If you have any questions for me or comments, you can email me at the kevinbroderickshow@gmail.com. I'll put it up on the screen here as well. With that, thank you very much, Bill, for being here.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and good luck with all your shows.
Thank you for watching. I want to briefly promote an organization many of you may be familiar with, Norwood's Circle of Hope Foundation, which has provided substantial aid to Norwood's residents who have suffered significant financial setbacks as a result of medical complications. The Circle of Hope is largely known for their Dancing with the Stars event, which generates funds to help these individuals. My own mother is Dancing with the Stars next spring, so I want to put a QR code on the screen to help her raise money for this cause. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me at thekevinbroderickshow@gmail.com. Goodbye.